had no acting background, no script, and Chinese wasn't even his native language. But he went for it. This is the story of how he auditioned, got in, and become part of something bigger than himself.
And so I flew back to the US, and the day I arrived in the US, I got a letter in the mail.
Oh, wow.
From the Chinese consulate.
Wow, so
and
exciting.
It said, you've been accepted into Beijing Film Academy.
Wow.
Full scholarship.
Wow.
And I was having dinner with a friend of mine in Washington, D.C., who used to work in the White House and is involved in entertainment in the U.S. And I told him, I said, well, I'm coming back to the U.S. I don't plan to go to China ever again. I think I'm done with China. And then I showed him I just got accepted in Beijing Film Academy. And he said, what are you thinking? You have to go back. This is too special. Mm-hmm. You'll be the first, white guy to study acting there. And in China, this is incredible. You have to do it. Mm-hmm. And so I had a TV series that wanted to fly me back to Beijing to shoot. I was also Western China champion of men's health magazine's competition to be on the cover of the magazine. Wow. I was an endorser for it. And they wanted me to be in Beijing. And then I had the Beijing Film Academy thing. And so I said, I have to get back. And so I flew to Beijing.
Wow.
And enrolled in Beijing Film Academy.
Wow. What is this experience to be the first one?
It was amazing. It was all in Chinese. And I couldn't understand anything the teachers were saying at first.
Because it's Beijing dialect.
Yeah, some of them.
Yes, when because my college is in Beijing too.
Yeah.
When I first come to Beijing, I even don't know what they're talking about. Because Beijingers, when they speak, they don't move their...
Oh, they're talking like this.
Over here. Yeah, it's like that. So how long you get used to it?
It took a long time. And honestly, I'll admit I didn't learn that much at Beijing Film Academy. I'm sorry. I didn't learn that much at Beijing Film Academy because after I started my classes there, I started getting offers to on roles, and they encouraged us to work there. So I started acting in big series there, and so a lot of times I was working, and I would come back to class and want to go off the film again, and I was kind of in and out a lot, and then I couldn't understand what they were saying a lot of times too.
Did you know classmates?
Yeah, but it wasn't like I progressed significantly there. I think it was a struggle, but what was interesting is that I learned to act in Chinese. Even though it was relatively limited Chinese. At that point, I had only been in China for 4 years. And I think I was fluent in Chinese by that point. But being fluent and being able to act in another language and really understanding everything is a whole different ballgame. So I was still beginning. But I started getting bigger and bigger roles. My first one in Beijing was a series called Red Sorghum. Hong Gao Liang.
Oh, wow.
With Zhou Xun.
Yes.
And
Hong Gao Liang.
I did that. I have a funny story about that because I was in class and I got a message from an agent that said, hey, would you like to do this series, Hong Gao Liang, or, something with this star, blah, blah. I was like, I want to do this. So I showed my classmate and she said, oh, if Zhou Xun is in this, you have to do it.
Yes.
And I said, okay. And then I asked another classmate, same thing. Well, Zhou Xun, you got to do it.
Top actress.
And I asked my teacher, same thing. Zhou Xun, you have to do this, right? So I said, okay, Zhou Xun must be famous. I don't know who Zhou Xun is. I went and I filmed, and came back. And, my classmates were like, oh, did you meet Zhou Xun? And I was like, yeah, probably. All the guy actors, we had this picture together. Okay. So I think I took a picture with him and they're like, him? No, Zhou Xun's a girl. They go, oh, Zhou Xun's a girl. Oh, I didn't know. And then I thought, oh yeah, I wonder. I looked at the picture and I was like, oh, that was the girl. So I had a scene with her, and it was a scene of like 200 people.
Okay.
And I'm a journalist, and I'm like asking all these questions, and she comes in the middle of the scene, and starts crying, like she was saying stuff, and then the director stopped it. He said, "Cut," and he talked to her. And he said, "Oh, I need you to cry for this, right?" And like almost immediately, like, "Okay, let's go." We did it again. She's cried and did the scene, and I was like, "Wow, this." I was like, "This girl, I don't know. She must be a new actor or something, but I think she's going to be, something someday. She's a pretty good actress." And then turns out, oh, that's Joe Schmidt. She was already super famous.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of times when I worked in China at the beginning, I had no clue who anyone was that I was working with. I didn't grow up watching Chinese movies and series or anything. And I couldn't understand a lot of stuff at the beginning anyway. So I worked with a lot of cool people and just had no clue.
So do you think a Chinese performing technique is it very different from, American technique?
Yeah. So I look at it at Chinese acting techniques are very surface level, I think.
Okay.
So they, a lot of times they focus more on the outward appearance of things. Like, how does this, like, what are you wearing?
Oh.
What is your, like, if you just look at them, do they look like that thing? Are they acting like that? They look. If they're upset, I want it to look very upset. A lot of times it's more of a bit of a surface level stuff thing. And then, it's very much to me outside first. And then the inner work is kind of very hidden behind the things. So to people who don't understand the culture, I think a lot of times it looks like there's nothing going on inside because it's hard to see, you don't understand the intricacies of what's happened. And I think it's much closer to a British way of acting, where the British are much more about,
Hidden inside.
Well, Americans are more about feeling it first. Like if you feel it, then you let your body naturally emote, right? It's kind of like method acting. I want to really feel this. I want to really be the character, and then I'll naturally move and I'll naturally talk and I'll naturally emote the way I should. Whereas a British way of acting is more like, okay, so if I'm going to cry, then I don't have to think about some thing that's going to make me cry. I do the body motions, like move my diaphragm up and down, and it makes me, actually start physically crying because of the movement first. And then I feel the emotion after that. It's the opposite of American, And then Chinese acting, from my perspective, and what we were taught, was more about just, how it looks. Okay. That is 95% of it. So I remember the first acting exercise I did in class. We had to come up with our own scene, and I put together the scene, I did it. And then teacher, he stood me up and he said, "Okay, why are you wearing that shirt?" I said, he said, "Why are you wearing that necklace? Why are you wearing those shoes? Why is the light on you like that? Why didn't you use this song for this? And it was all things about, like, makeup, lighting, all this stuff." And I was like, it's not acting at all. Okay. Right? But it really was, more of of how something looks. And I think it stems from like Beijing opera, Sichuan opera. It's very much about a tradition of being a character, right? And the only movements you make are the movements that are allowed for that character. You're more like a puppet than a person, in that sense. And so it's a very, deeply artistic way of thinking of things. When later in my career, when I studied, my master's in London at RADA, we focused a lot on these techniques from the East, like Chinese opera, Beijing opera, but no theater in Japan, Balinese dancers. So it's, I think at the beginning of my career, I thought it was a bit shallow. But at the end of my career, I realized, oh, it's actually the deepest of the techniques.
The Chinese technique.
The Chinese technique. So, full circle there, the more you know, the more you realize how stupid you are. So,
do you like Beijing?
I love Beijing. Yeah. I love Beijing. Yeah. It's my second home.
So many foreign friends, they want to visit Beijing. They always mention to eat roast duck, 全聚德, and maybe 秀水 Street to buy some bags or like that. But in my opinion, this is the place we never go there. The local people never visit. So if you recommend like some tourist attraction routes to the friends, which place you want to?
Yeah, it's hard. The first time I went to Beijing, I had been in Guizhou for a year, and I had already started dreaming in Chinese. Everything was Chinese for me, and I flew to Beijing, and then I ordered food at a restaurant, and the waitress was speaking English to me. And that was when I had culture shock. I never had culture shock in Guizhou. I had culture shock when I went to Beijing the first time, because it was like, why is someone speaking English? I don't understand.
It's very more than saying.
Beijing, you really have to know local friends. That's the best way to do it, because it's about knowing where to go, and it's not obvious. So when I first visited there, I did not like Beijing. Thought it was cold and square. And, but once I lived there and I started having friends, I knew where to go. It's amazing. I loved it. I loved it so much. So where can you go? I mean, the easy thing to say if you're an expat or a foreigner is to go to Sanlitun.
Sanlitun.
That's my favorite part of Beijing.
很时尚的地方，潮流的地方，潮流应该怎么说
？Just what's the word for that? Popular.
Popular
area. There's a lot of Western restaurants there.
Sanlitun.
Yeah, I think by the time I got to Beijing, I had lived my super China life in Guizhou and Chengdu, and only Chinese friends and only Chinese food and only speaking Chinese. And when I got to Beijing, I was like, oh, I can order salad. There's a barbecue restaurant. Oh, this is amazing. So my life in Beijing was a lot more cosmopolitan and a lot more international. But there's just, I would just say make local friends there and have them take you around.
Very important.
Yeah, because I don't know exactly where, but I was just hanging around Sanlitun a lot. And,
Do you like roast duck?
I love roast duck.
Yeah.
You kidding me? That's it's usually if an American asks me what's my favorite Chinese food, I say roast duck, Beijing duck, because it's amazing. As long as you don't eat it too much. You have it every day, you're going to get sick of it. But I think it's
really worth to try.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Beijing duck is one of the best meals in China.
全聚德.
Yeah, mine was 1949, 1949.
Okay.
But they closed it in Sanlitun. So and then Dadong was pretty good too.
Yes, Dadong is pretty good.
Yeah, but there's a lot of good roast duck places.
And because some of the friends, they leave comment in my channel, they say they plan to visit China first time because they hear the internet infrastructure is very advanced in China. So because if we live in China, it's cashless. We just done everything, use our smartphone.
Yeah.
So they ask me, they leave the question to me so Miss Mi, which app I need to download before I go to China? So during your experience,
WeChat.
WeChat,
Of
yes,
course.
we use WeChat Pay.
Yes, but WeChat is the one app that is for everything. It's how
Yes,
everyone
WeChat.
communicates. You know, it's like Facebook, Instagram, text message, phone call, video, it's Zoom, it's money, it's making booking a train or a plane.
Yeah.
It's
Oh my
it's
God.
everything. All that you'll do is all in that one app. So definitely get WeChat and then connect it to your. You can connect it to your credit card now. And international credit card.
Apply for a credit card?
If you have an international credit card, like an American credit card, then you can connect it to your WeChat, pay, and then pay directly from that. Yeah.
Do you have Taobao?
Oh yeah. So if you want to buy like products and things online, Taobao is the way to do it. Taobao.
Yes, it's way too cheap.
And it's super cheap there, and it comes really fast, and they have everything.
Okay. So it's already come to the final part of our talk show today. So, but this part is very essential because we really want to know that, Matt, do you have any method or technique to learn Chinese quickly?
Okay. I mean, learning Chinese quickly, I always say the best way to learn Chinese is to go and volunteer teach in backwards Chinese for 2 years in a place where no one can speak English. But honestly, I think it's putting yourself in an environment where no one can speak English, where you have to speak Chinese, where your Chinese is already better than whoever you're with English, and then you're forced to speak Chinese. That is really how you're going to learn fastest. The other way is to have a one-on-one tutor, one-on-one tutor every day, and you just constantly, having that environment, and they'll correct your specific things. Something that I always say, if you're learning tones, I have my own method of, I think they didn't teach me this, but I think they should have. It would have saved me years of learning tones. There's 4 tones in Chinese, right? Ma, 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 right? But I think of it like first tone is like a robot. Ma, 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 ma. You say it like,
it sounds the same.
Ma, right? Like a robot voice. The second one is like a question voice. Ma, like ask a question. Ma.
Yes.
The robot ma, and then question ma. And then the third one is a little difficult. It's like ma. It goes down and up. Yeah, and it kind of like hits the bottom and it pops up to the top. So it's ma, ma, like that, ma. And then the fourth tone is like your angry voice. You say, ma, stop it.
Angry voice.
It goes from top to the bottom. So, ma, 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 ma. Sure. I mean, the way I learned is I just had flashcards.
Flashcards,
but not written out on the phone app. Pleco is a really cool dictionary, and I had flashcards on Pleco, and I would just go through flashcards over and over and over. And if you follow the HSK, which is the like Chinese proficiency exam, if you learn the words that they give you for like SHK1 through 6 or 7, however many there are, then they give you words that you can learn. So every few years in China, I would go through and like re-study all the SHK words to make sure, that I still remembered them. And yeah, that's,
Do you think learning Chinese is important?
Well, it changed my life. So for me, it was very important. And I think, now it's not as super popular as it was like a few years ago. But I think in a few years, 5 or 10 years, it's going to be super popular again. And it'll make more sense then. I think we're in a little weird time now. So yeah, I think it's super important to learn. I think it's going to open your eyes and your options in the world up like twofold, right? Like right now in English, you have a certain number of opportunities, but China is kind of its own universe now. It's kind of its own space. And if you can speak the language even a little bit and understand the culture, then you open the world up into two worlds.
Yes.
So if you're interested in opportunities, China is a place that's fascinating. There's so much going on all the time. There's so much opportunity. So I would encourage anyone to learn.
The cities of China is totally different. It's very different. Like if you live in Beijing, it's the pace is very fast. But if you come to Sichuan, you come to Chengdu, it's very slow.
Yeah.
So which city you like the best?
I like Chengdu the best. Okay. It's more chill, right? But it's not the best city to like get things done, especially for me, like as an actor. The market in Chengdu is more for like Western China, whereas in Beijing, Shanghai, it's for all of China. So there's a lot more opportunities there. So yeah, I love the lazy kind of life. I'd love to just hang out on an island in the middle of the Pacific somewhere. But I also like to work and chase opportunities. So Beijing, Shanghai is better for that.
So if I hope you can use one sentence to like say to all the friends they've never been to China, what would you say?
Oh, I think you should absolutely go. A lot of my college buddies have still never come visit me in China, and I think they're missing out on one of the most incredible places in the world. You at least have to go and experience it and realize, wow. When I first got to China, I thought it was going to be the most boring place in the world, and I found out it's the opposite of that. It's the most exciting place in the world.
Good food,
good
tourist attraction,
good people, it's safe. There's so much there. It's such a unique culture. It's very special.
Okay. Thank you so much, Matt, for sharing so many interesting stories and experience with us today. And I hope I hope all the friends, if you've never been to China, it's really worth to try it, really worth to visit. And please, if you enjoy our video, to like, to share, to follow my channel. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.
In the streets of Beijing, he told me, "I'm not just a visitor anymore. I live here now." That's what this show is about. No longer a stranger. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.